I've never been that interested in the quick one night stuff, right? So that was never really my intention. Like if I ever went out or did any of that sort of stuff, I was never like, oh, I'm going out to go pick up a girl and take her home or whatever. That was never really the intention. It was more, we're going out because we're going out to do this thing and have fun. Okay. And then because my intention was never to really pick up, I would always just get attention. So like, and this is actually, I don't have a simp story. I have an inverse-simp story, which is going to make me look like a dick. But anyway, I'll tell you. So I did a period when I was at university where I worked on a stripping boat, right? Taking clothes off for money. Okay. And it was fantastic because I could work one day a week or one night a week, and it would pay for, my life and lifestyle for the rest of the week. And so, I didn't have to work all the time, means I could study more, which I did, and just played, did stupid stuff instead. But anyway, me and our mate played FIFA all the time. That was fun. But I would go out on these things, right? And so that was a very eye-opening experience for me. So doing that, I got an insight into what it might feel like to be a girl walking into a club, right? You feel like a piece of meat. You are on this boat. Your job is to, obviously be there to look good and to serve a, function of like, delivering drinks and being entertainment, right? Essentially. And that's what you're paid to do. But it's so off-putting when people's intentions are so obvious to me personally, but it's also really off-putting when you can feel the pressure from them, if that kind of makes sense. Like it's, there's like that all eyes on me kind of thing. When you can smell that intention or sense that intention, or you can feel that they're wanting you, so to speak, I found that that's very off-putting. And so I think a lot of guys go wrong because they're out there trying to pick up all the time. And it's so obvious that that's what they're trying to do, that there's a natural aversion to that, right? Like the person that you're trying to pick up is just like, oh, this is like, you're so pushy and you're so forward. Like it's just so obvious, if that kind of makes sense. And so naturally you sort of become averse to it. You just want to go away. And honestly, this is like probably a superpower. I don't know if I should drop this on the pod, but the superpower is like, don't give a fuck. Like, don't go out to pick up. Don't want to do that. Go out to enjoy yourself and have a great time with your friends and whoever else you meet out, but dance and have all that fun. Like, go and do that. That's when the attraction will happen. That's when people will be drawn to you because it's contagious. Like, we've had this happen. We've been out. Montreal's a good experience where we were just out having fun for ourselves. And then all of a sudden, because we're the life of the party, everyone's attracted, like everyone's coming over to us wanting to get involved with what we're doing. We're not interested in any of that, which makes them want to get involved even more. And that's the sort of negative. It's an inverse thing. So yeah, I've always kind of had that to some degree, obviously at different levels, at different times. But yeah, not going out trying to pick up and not wanting it, and like sort of it being plastered on my face that I'm not really interested in your trickery with any of the illusions, has always helped me to never really have to go chasing. It's more like sort of being the chased.
Damn, dude. I feel like we could do a whole pod on questions I have about what it was like to be a boat stripper. That just sounds fucking hilarious. That would never work the other way around. Imagine being on a boat and there's like a boat, like a stripper boat for guys.
Which is like 4 girls. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fucked up, right? That would be like dangerous for the girls, I feel.
It's dangerous for guys. I'm not like, I'm a big, like, I'm a decent sized guy, right? I'm pretty solid sort of physique. Okay. And there's times when I did get a little bit sketched, right? Because I'm not joking. It's like, what's a good analogy? It's kind of like, it's like being a little baby deer in a pit full of lions. Like, if you ever really want to get an insight how to, women go wild, be a stripper for a day on a boat with the chicks. After they have a few drinks, man, it is like I've been around some pretty, sort of misogynistic men and pretty, like grotesque behavior from men. Like I've been exposed to quite a lot of that. And chicks, they can take the cake on some of it. Like, holy shit. Like, and personal space, and they know that they can get away with it to a certain degree. So I think that feeds into, like, they really will push the boundaries. Like, there's times when we've had to, call it off and put the boat, it's just getting out of control. No respect for personal space or privacy or any of that. Like, just out of control behavior from chicks, like that really is girls gone wild, and some of the behavior is just foul.
There's like this insinuation because you're out on the water on a boat, there's nothing around. It's almost like lawless in a sense. There's like this big insinuation where you can sort of, I'm going to get away with it. Or, it's a really strange headspace to be in because, like you said, you've had to put a stop to it. But yeah, dude, you put a stop to it, but you still have to turn the boat around and go back to shore.
Yeah.
And it's a continual situation until you get back to shore, right? It's not like you could just leave the club. No, it's all right. We're going to have to turn the boat around and go back to shore. Like that's kind of wild.
On top of that, the only reason, in my circumstance with some of those, the only reason I could put a stop to it was because I was physically stronger and I could put a stop to it. But if you invert that role and you imagine, I'm a woman, or, I'm only 60 kilos or 50 kilos instead of 120, then that becomes a very different scenario. And so, like I said, it was a big insight into how a lot of women might feel in certain social circumstances, especially in clubs and things like that. And so having that experience myself, I could never, ever do that to somebody else. I could never impose myself on anybody else. And I'm always very mindful of that, which is why, and I'm also trying to play a longer game where it's like, if things are meant to happen, then they will. I'm not trying to rush stuff. That kind of makes sense. There was a Brazilian girl that I met on this boat thing, right? And she was like gorgeous, 9 out of 10, gorgeous girl, very nice. And she was there with a guy one night on this boat. And I thought that was her boyfriend. So typical, I'm not paying any attention to, obviously, she's an attractive girl, but I'm not like, oh, like, look at that girl. She's attractive, cool, on with my night, right? Doing my thing. So she comes up to me at the end and she goes, you never even talk to me, with the accent. And I was like, oh, I didn't want to intrude, you with your boyfriend. Like, why would I talk to you? She's like, that's not my boyfriend. Okay. So he's not your boyfriend? And she goes, no. Why did you not talk to me? I said, well, because I thought you were with your boyfriend. You don't think I'm attractive? And I'm like, no, you are. You're attractive. So why you not talk to me? I'm like, okay. Anyway, so this goes on and on, right? Anyway, so we started talking and she actually turned out to be quite a nice girl. That was her friend, whatever. But the only reason she came and spoke to me was because I didn't go and talk to her. Because I didn't give her that approval, so to speak. Anyway, this started this whole thing. So we hung out a few times. She took me to dinner, right? She goes, yeah, so we're hanging out. She took me to dinner a couple of times. And, she'd messaged me. I wasn't that interested. I was not because of any other reason that I was busy with other things at the time, right? I wasn't necessarily focused on any of that stuff. Anyway, long story short, she says to me, and this is hilarious because it's like the inverse of your story with a Brazilian, okay? So she goes, I want to take you to dinner, but I want to take you somewhere really special. She goes, where would you like to go? And I said, oh, well, I'd like to go and have, no, it was late at night. Sorry. Yeah. She wants to take me really special. So, well, the only place it'd be really nice to go tonight would be like the Golden Century restaurant in Chinatown. And it's a restaurant that's famous in Chinatown in Sydney. And it's got like all the fish tanks on the window. So, and it's a very iconic sort of building, but they've got all the fish there and the crabs and everything else. And you can go. So anyway, she's like, well, let's go there. So she takes me there. She's like, order whatever you want. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, whatever you want. She's like, do you want one of those? And I was like, a crab? And she's like, yeah, get a crab. And I was like, okay. So I got a crab. We've got fish. We've got all this other stuff, like hundreds of doodles.
Can you do her Brazilian accent?
I'll drop it in when we go, right? She go, and then so we get the crab. She goes, you go pick. I go over to the fish tank. I pick the crab. Guy comes across and goes, she goes, oh, you got a big one. And I was like, yeah, I picked the big one. And we go back and then they make the crab. It comes out. We're chatting. Talking, small talk. Then she hits me with it, right? The whole reason she took me to dinner was because she wanted to drop the bomb on me. She says, I really like you. We get on very well. You've got a good head on your shoulders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're very respectful, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. will you marry me? Fuck. Oh, fuck. And I was like, marry you? She's like, yes, yes. And I was like, no. And she's like, why not? And I was like, why would we get married? And it turns out she then says, well, it's, I'll pay you to marry me. I'll pay you 25,000 Australian dollars because I have a daughter who's in Brazil. She needs to come across, but I need to become a citizen. Like this whole big thing. So it turned out to be like a VC style scam. Right? She's like, if you don't love me, it's okay. We just have to pretend for 1 year, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know. Okay. But the other sketchy thing about her was she was very attractive, right? But she had some body augmentation, right? So she had some of her body fat moved. So she was a bit more shapely and she had fake breasts. I could never really tell if she was actually a man or a woman. I was always very skeptical of that. I don't know why that was, but it's happened with me with 2 Brazilian women. And I was just like, damn, I don't know. Like, you could be a man. I'm not sure. So I always just err on the side of caution in that regard. But yeah. So she was like, yeah, you're the only guy that hasn't really tried to sleep with me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not sure if you're a man or a girl. So I'm just like, I'll play the long game here. I'm not really feeling a rush in and do some shit that it might psychologically affect me later on. But anyway, that was it. Because I wouldn't follow through with certain things, she's like, this guy, perfect candidate. I'll pay you 25 grand to marry me because there's like no pressure here and I don't feel threatened by you. It's just like crazy how these opportunities arise. Anyway, so I hit my dad up. I was like, Dad, there's this Brazilian girl, quite attractive. She's offered $25,000 to marry me. You reckon I should do it? And he's like, fuck no. What are you thinking? Don't even think about it. No. So long story short, I didn't take the $25,000 and I didn't marry the Brazilian girl. I felt a little bit bad because I was like, oh, her poor daughter. And I was like, what the fuck? It's, relax, slow your roll.